Hello everyone, the Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the Caribbean. It is Monday evening, April 17, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what that's been like in your ear recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. I respond to all comments and I really live for this stuff. Alright, so taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, we can see that we have a cold front right there across portions of the southeastern Gulf of Mexico, the southern tip of Florida, and offshore the east coast of the United States. We can also see that we have a trough affecting portions of northeastern Caribbean and another trough to the east of that trough. We can also see that we have a high pressure ridge still dominating the Atlantic region, sending a lot of easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images before the sun went down, we can see that line of clouds across portions of southern Florida as well as off the east coast of the United States associated with that cold front. We can see those clouds right there across portions of northeastern Caribbean associated with that trough. And we can see those low level patches of clouds moving from east to west across the main development region into the Caribbean, all courtesy of that easterly trade wind brought about by that high pressure ridge. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean's weather later on. Let's focus our attention on the prediction that was made for today's weather in yesterday's post. It was stated in our previous video that we would have received some amount of rainfall across sections of central, western, and especially northern Jamaica on Monday afternoon. And what ended up happening? We actually had a post right there at 3:01 p.m. highlighting some clouds bringing overcast skies and showers across sections of central, western, and especially northern parishes. So we indeed had that rainfall maybe in inland areas of St. Catherine, inland areas of Clarendon, inland areas of Manchester and St. Elizabeth, portions of inland areas of Westmoreland and portions of Hanover, not to mention sections of St. James, Trelawney and St. Anne as well. And another post was made at 4:45 p.m. highlighting these very clouds bringing thunderstorms across those very spots, especially northern parishes as indicated by all of those sparkling white dots. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images before the sun went down, we can see that we still had those clouds across those very areas, even up to the point where the sun was taking its departure. So we still have some amount of cloud cover across portions of inland areas of central Jamaica as well as sections of western Jamaica as well. And if we reload these very images of the infrared satellite loop, we can see that we still have some amount of thunderstorms right there across portions of Hanover, St. James, even Trelawney at recording hour right now, which is a little after 7 p.m. Taking a look at Doppler radar images, we see much of the same. Some amount of rainfall right there as indicated by the greens and the yellows, even some reds in there, especially across portions of northern Jamaica. So St. James, Trelawney right there. Taking a look at the temperatures for tonight, we can see that we have 23 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 24 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, and as the night progresses, as usual, these temperatures should be getting lower. Taking a look at the temperatures for tomorrow, however, we can see that we have a majority of Jamaica being embedded in average temperature. So we don't have yellows, we don't have blues that indicate warmer temperatures or lower temperatures. We're in between, and we see that on both the Euro and the GFS models for 18th on Tuesday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Tuesday. So we don't have much to worry about. 88 degrees Fahrenheit is the average temperature for the month of April in Jamaica, and that's about 31 degrees Celsius. Taking a look at the dry air map, we can see that we still have a lot of moist air across portions of Jamaica. Lots of blues that indicate moist air, not to mention some yellows, and the yellows are right there on the key that indicate the least amount of dry air. We can see that the driest air is right there across portions of the northeastern Gulf of Mexico, portions of the United States, not to mention that air right there to the northwest of Africa as usual. Taking a look at the Saharan dust map, we can see that we have majority of the dust associated with the Sahara Desert right there across the waters to the west of Africa. We have some slight dust conditions right there across portions of the eastern Caribbean, but it is not that drastic, and Jamaica is in the blues that indicate no Saharan dust whatsoever for 2 p.m. on Tuesday. Taking a look at the wave forecast, we can see that both the Euro and the GFS supercomputer models are predicting that we'll be having 1.5 meter wave heights or less. I know that when we have consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. And these wave heights are due to the fact that we'll be receiving some weak winds tomorrow. And usually when we have weak winds, we have a lot of buildup of clouds and more convergence, which could lead to more afternoon thunderstorms, similar to what happened today. So we see that we have more of the wind coming in, more from, let's say, the east or the southeast across the island. Anywhere from 5 to 10 knots is what is being expected. And we see that we have the blues that indicate the least amount of winds right there piling up across inland areas of central western parishes, especially northern parishes. So wherever we have the darkest blues that indicate the least amount of winds, and wherever we have that, we usually have that buildup of clouds that lead to afternoon convection, all of those thunder clouds, thunderstorm clouds, cumulonimbus clouds. That's what we might get again. And considering that the wind shear is still being predicted to come out from the southwest in the upper levels of the atmosphere on both the Euro and the GFS models for 1 p.m. on Tuesday, we might just have a repeat of what we had today, with all of those upper level clouds being streaked off or pushed off towards the northeast or the east northeast, favoring more overcast skies and more of the thunderstorms across sections of northern Jamaica. Again, just like what happened today. So that is what is being expected for tomorrow. And as such, when we take a look at the precipitation forecast for Tuesday, this is 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 2 p.m. Jamaica time. And we can see a lot of blues stretching from east to west across the island. So eastern, central, and western Jamaica could be getting in on some of that afternoon convection. And considering that we have majority of the wind shear coming in from the southwest, there might be a bias for majority of the rainfall across sections of northern Jamaica as well. So eastern, central, and western Jamaica is what is being predicted to receive rainfall for 2 p.m. on Tuesday, especially inland areas. And considering that we're having that southwesterly wind shear, we might have majority of the rainfall right there across portion of northern Jamaica. So Portland, St. Mary, St. Anne, Trelawney, St. James, Hanover. And if it's going to be across the south coast, it would more than likely be across inland areas, so the northern sections of these southern parishes. So northern St. Thomas, northern Kingston and St. Andrew, northern St. Catherine, northern Clarendon, northern Manchester, northern St. Elizabeth, and northern Westmoreland is where it might take place. And if we take a look at the accumulated precipitation forecast, these maps are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Tuesday. And we see much of the same, lots of consensus, even though the rainfall amounts are not that much, more than likely 0.55 or 0.52 of an inch of rainfall. Not that drastic either way. We still have rainfall in the forecast for a portion of Jamaica for tomorrow, and we see the most orange or the most intense rainfall or the most accumulated rainfall across portions of northern Jamaica, especially northwestern Jamaica, where we have that shading there across portions of maybe western St. Anne, Trelawney, and St. James. And we see consensus on both models. So those very areas that receive those that rainfall today, that's where the rainfall will be occurring again on Tuesday afternoon. And we're indeed grateful for this rainfall. It is good to have this rainfall to put a dent in the drought. We usually receive up to 140 millimeters of rainfall for the month of April, and I believe that we're on track so far in some spots of the island, and we're indeed grateful for that. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let's focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have a trough right there to the north of the eastern Caribbean, and we have those clouds associated with that cold front across portions of southern tip of Florida, affecting portions of the Bahamas at this time. We can also see a lot of afternoon convection right there taking place across portions of eastern Cuba, Hispaniola, Haiti, the Dominican Republic, portions of Guatemala, Honduras as well. If we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean, we know that Doppler radar images show us the actual rainfall over a specific area, as opposed to satellite images that show cloud cover. And we can have cloud cover over an area, not necessarily rainfall. Taking a look at the Doppler radar images, we see that we had some amount of rainfall right there across portions of Puerto Rico, so central and western Puerto Rico, southwestern Puerto Rico especially, portions of the US Virgin Islands right there. Not much rainfall right there across portions of the eastern section of the Leeward Islands, so Anguilla, St. Bart's, St. Martin, Antigua and Barbuda were spared. even Guadeloupe as well. Taking a look at the Barbados radar, we see some amount of scattered rainfall to the north and east of Barbados, some of which might make it into sections of eastern Barbados tonight. Even to the northwest of Barbados, right there, across portions of St. Lucia, and maybe even spilling into sections of St. Vincent, might be getting in on some amount of stray showers tonight as well. Taking a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, we can see that rainfall right there across portions of the Bahamas associated with that cold front, that rainfall across portions of Cuba associated with the afternoon convection, that rainfall right there across portions of the Yucatan Peninsula, sections of northern Guatemala, and portions of Belize as well. We can see some rainfall right there associated with some afternoon convection across portions of Honduras, and we can see rainfall right there across portions of Suriname and French Guyana. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, both the Euro and the GFS are in consensus that the below average temperatures will be right there across portions of Central America all the way across the southern Caribbean into the eastern Caribbean, with the warm or the above normal temperatures anywhere from Cuba, Turks and Caicos, and the waters to the north of there. Taking a look at the Saharan dust map, we can see that we have some slight browns that indicate some amount of hint of Sahara dust across portions of the eastern Caribbean, but it won't be that noticeable. Majority of the heaviest dust associated with the Sahara Desert is right there across the main development region, not to mention portions of Africa, for 2 p.m. on Tuesday. Taking a look at the wave forecast, we can see that the Caribbean is not that robust these days in terms of wave height. Majority of the Caribbean and the Atlantic basin in general has 1.5 meter wave height or less, and we see that on both the Euro and the GFS models, and that's due to the fact that we have lots of greens that indicate up to 20 knot winds. We know that the strongest winds are usually indicated by the yellows or even reds or even purples, but we don't have much of that right now. You see lots of greens that indicate 10 to 20 knot winds, and across the Caribbean that will be coming in from the east. And we know that wherever we have the darkest blues, that's where we have the least amount of winds. So right there across the Greater Antilles near Jamaica, that's where we'll have the least amount of winds for tomorrow, and that might even cause some more humidity and make the place even feel, a bit hotter than normal. Taking a look at the rain forecast for tomorrow, we can see that majority of the Greater Antilles could receive up to 1 inch of rainfall, so anywhere from Cuba, the Bahamas, the Turks and Caicos, portions of Hispaniola, especially Haiti and Jamaica, are getting on some rainfall. We also see consensus across portions of Puerto Rico, and we can also see some consensus right there across portions of Guadeloupe, as well as the islands of the Windward Islands right there, so Barbados and anywhere to the west of there. Scrolling down, we can also see up to 1 inch of rainfall being predicted across portions of western Venezuela, eastern Venezuela, portions of Guyana, section of Colombia can be getting in on up to 1 inch of rainfall, which might lead to some isolated flash flooding. And we can also see some rainfall being predicted for portions of Costa Rica and western Panama as well. Taking a look at the western portion of the basin, we can see some rainfall, even up to 1 inch of rainfall being predicted from now up until 10 p.m. on Tuesday for sections of Guatemala, portions of the Yucatan Peninsula, Belize, and Honduras right there. I know that when we have consensus on both maps, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.